Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to talk about self-forgiveness and what's required in order to be able to truly forgive yourself, or at least to start being able to forgive yourself. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's Stephanie Redmond and I'm a certified professional life and relationship coach. And this is Nico. He is going to be joining us today. He is my pet baby green cheek conure. And yeah, just don't mind him. If you're new here, please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my new content. And if you are already subscribed, I really want to send out a huge thank you. And I want you to know that I really appreciate you. All right, so let's dive into the content. Self-forgiveness. So I'm sure at one point or another you've made a mistake. Why am I sure of that? Because you're human and because we all do. So sometimes we make some mistakes that are a little bit heavier than others and we have a hard time moving on and forgiving ourselves for it. So what ends up happening? Well, we end up carrying it with us deep down inside and we feel horrible about it. But that's not necessarily bad. Feeling bad about doing something wrong or messing up is actually good because it shows us that we learned something from it. So it's not necessarily a waste, but there does come a time when you have to let it go. Let it go in the sense of releasing the charge. What happens is when you carry that burden within you, it complicates the way that you're able to grow in the future. They say resentment is like taking poison and hoping that the other person dies from you taking the poison. So we already know that resentment and not forgiving others is bad. It's not bad for them, it's bad for you. So what happens when you don't forgive yourself? Well, you are carrying that poison. There are a few things to keep in mind when you are working on forgiving yourself. The first thing is to remember that you are human. You're human, you are going to mess up, and that's just part of the human condition. There's nothing you can do about it except grow from it. Now, I get it. The idea of forgiveness can be really uncomfortable. There may be feelings of guilt and shame and embarrassment and fear and sadness and anger, frustration, all kinds of negative feelings. But that's exactly my point. All of these negative feelings bring you down. Now, a wise man once said that one forgives to the extent that one loves. So let's put this into perspective. Let's say you have someone in your life that you really love, like a small child or maybe a small animal. Let's say he bites me, or the child knocks down your favorite vase or whatever. Because you love that child or because you love that pet, isn't it easier for you to be able to recall all the good things about the child or the pet? And it's easier for you to be a little more lenient and to forgive that pet or small child. Well, that's because you have a loving relationship with them. The reason why it's so hard for us to forgive ourselves is that most of us don't have a loving and caring relationship with ourselves. We're much harder on ourselves than we are on other people. We judge ourselves harder. We constantly beat ourselves up. And that's not really fair. Some of you may be familiar with the Bible, and I'm not here to push religion on you, but it does have a lot of wise teachings written in it. And so one of the commandments that Jesus talks about is to love God with all your heart and then love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself, how can you love your neighbor? If you don't forgive yourself, how can you forgive your neighbor? So what I'm saying is there comes a time where you have to start being a little easier on yourself. Now, 9 times out of 10, we did the best that we could during the time of the mistake based on the knowledge that we had, the current emotional state that we were in, and the resources that we had around us. I'm sure if you really knew that what you were gonna do would cause pain to yourself or to others, you more than likely wouldn't have done the mistake, would you? I'm pretty certain that if you would have known in advance that whatever your action was gonna cause pain to yourself or to others, wouldn't you agree that you probably wouldn't have gone that route? And even if you did know that your actions were gonna cause pain, if you would have known how much you would be regretting it now, you probably still wouldn't have done it. And in all fairness, hurt people hurt people. The reason why you see people lashing out at other people is because they're hurt. So I know for me, when I've made my mistakes, it's because I was in a low state of mind. I was feeling a lot of pain. I was having a lot of issues going on inside. And so, yeah, I was more susceptible to making stupid mistakes. And unfortunately, part of the human condition is making incredibly stupid mistakes. And sometimes it's having repeated failures. But although we make these mistakes, the key is, it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you respond to what happens to you in life. It's about how you learn and how you grow. I mean, come on, think about it. If you've never made a mistake, if you've never put yourself out there, could you really say that you have experience? Realistically, if you haven't made that many mistakes, you more than likely have a very narrow comfort zone, which is not bad, but sometimes that can cause you to be less open-minded and even less forgiving of others. Okay, so realistically, how can we start the process of forgiving ourselves? What can we do? The first thing is you have to be able to openly admit to yourself that you messed up. Yeah, you dropped the ball, you messed up. Humbling yourself is the first thing that is required to be able to clean your conscience. If you sit around and pretend you never made the mistake and try and shove the pain deep down inside you, you're never gonna be able to heal and you're never gonna be able to move on. The real key is taking ownership and acknowledging your mistake. This puts you back in control and it puts you back in the driver's seat. Yeah, I messed up. Now the next step is thinking about what you learned from this mistake. What I'm saying is, in most cases, you probably learned the value of not making that mistake again. You probably learned how to be more responsible. You probably learned the value of maintaining relationships. There are so many things that you can learn if you start looking. There's always something to be learned from every situation in life. There's an ancient proverb that stuck with me that actually changed my life, and it goes like this: no man is your friend, no man is your enemy. Every man is your teacher. When I first heard that, it really blew my mind because, yeah, people might do something negatively towards you, but the way you react tells you something about yourself. And so if you can kind of start to identify the patterns and triggers, you can learn a lot about yourself and you can learn about how to improve that or change your situation. But I will talk about all of that in a different video. So acknowledging your mistake, figuring out what you learned from it. And then after you've acknowledged your mistake, then you have to make the decision not to do that again, or to make every effort possible to not go that route ever again, if possible. I just want to take a second to point out that the definition of wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. How can you ever have knowledge if you never have the experience, if you never lived through something, if you never make a mistake and figure out what the lesson is from it? So the benefit of making mistakes is if you use your mistakes to fuel your growth, it can create a sense of wisdom in you. So don't take that for granted, because wisdom doesn't come from just sitting around. Wisdom comes from life experience. The next thing that you should do is acknowledge your emotions. There are a lot of strong emotions tied to making a mistake. I know that it's very difficult when we think about the people that we've hurt, the things that we've messed up, the opportunities we blew, and it's tough to think about it. And honestly, I don't recommend for you to ignore those emotions and shove them to the side. Actually, I encourage you to feel those emotions, because what is an emotion? An emotion is energy in motion. The moment you cut off that energy in motion, you suppress that emotion, that's when you start to develop tendencies towards depression. So it is very important to allow yourself to feel your emotions. Christine Hassler, a really great coach, used this definition of emotion, and she compared the releasing of emotion like a toddler having a tantrum. What happens when you let a toddler completely ride that tantrum out? Well, they get really emotional, they get really mad, and then they start to calm themselves down, and they start to self-soothe, and then it's over. It's kind of the same way with emotions. So you need to ensure that you're taking care of yourself and that you allow yourself to ride the wave of your emotion. So important. The next thing that you can do is grab a piece of paper and draw a line right down the middle. And on one side of it, you write what your self-critic is saying. You made the mistake, you're X, Y, and Z, whatever. On the other side of the paper, you write a self-compassionate response to whatever your critic is saying. and you do this exercise, helps to draw out all of the jumbled up emotions and feelings and thoughts, and it's a very therapeutic exercise. Now, I know I mentioned the Bible before, and like I said, I'm not trying to convert anybody or sway anybody in a certain way. I just know that I wasn't a Bible reader, and I started to read the Bible, and it personally changed my life on a lot of different levels. So this tip is for those that do read the Bible, and that would be to read Psalm 103 verses 8 through 14. And if you're not a Bible reader and you're curious, I think that this could also help you, or at least it wouldn't hurt you. Now, the next thing that you can do is get really clear on what it is that you want. What do you want? If the mistake that you made hurts someone else, you have to decide what the best course of action is. Should you go and talk to that person and apologize, explain to them how you feel, how you are deeply sorry that the situation turned out the way that it did and that you hope that it never happens again? However you want to apologize, should you go and do that? Should you attempt to go and reconcile with that person? Reconciling the situation means actually doing something about it, actually trying to make the situation better. Did you break someone's piece of furniture? Well, maybe you can try to replace it, or maybe you can give them money to try to replace it. Just an example. The truth is that sometimes forgiving ourselves is so much easier when we try to fix the problem before we attempt to try and forgive ourselves. Another thing that you can do is take your own advice. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, think about the situation if it were flipped. Consider your best friend and imagine that they had made your mistake. What would you tell your best friend if they came to you with your problem? What would you tell them? How would you comfort them? If this is too hard for you to imagine, maybe you can get your best friend on board and ask them to role play the situation for you and see what it is that you would say to your own best friend, and then try to take your own advice. Another thing that you can do is take care of yourself. Try to mentally take care of yourself. If you're already down the path of the forgiveness process and you are feeling like you're having a hard time and you start to feel this feeling of guilt and you replay the situation, try to change your mindset. Try to do something to distract yourself. Go for a walk or try to do a breathing exercise. What I like to do, even if I'm short on time, I like to take 3 really nice, big, slow, deep breaths to slow myself down. There's always time for that, just so you know, even though you think, oh, I'm so busy, I'm in a rush. No, if you give yourself the oxygen that you need and you slow yourself down, the benefits and the results are instant, and it helps so much. Also, you need to make sure that you are getting enough sleep. I know that when I don't sleep, I am more depressed, I'm harder on myself, I am more judgmental, I am more irritable. It's just not a good thing. That's your body's way of lashing out, saying that I don't have what I need. So you need to make sure that you're getting enough rest. You can never give yourself enough credit for being at your best if you have not gotten enough rest and if you're not giving yourself enough water or the proper nutrition, okay? So super important. And remember, another thing that might be helpful for you to forgive yourself is to be forgiving of others. Again, the Bible says if you forgive others, you will be forgiven. So try to get into the habit of being merciful, because that will allow you to be merciful upon yourself. Also remember to be patient with yourself. Don't rush your feelings and don't rush your emotions. It is a process and you need to be gentle with yourself. Again, admitting your mistake, trying to figure out what you learned from your mistake, and then striving to not do the mistake and to try to make the situation better can really help you on the path towards self-forgiveness. If you do want to know a little bit more about how to forgive others, go ahead and check out my forgiveness video. I'm gonna have that link down below. I really appreciate you watching. I hope this helps. I hope this gives you a little bit of insight and some tools that you can use. Remember, don't be hard on yourself. And remember, you're human. You make mistakes, we all do. Don't let the situation be a waste. Learn from it, grow from it, and be better. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.